My name is Arden Blake, and I'm 31 years old. The night I finally understood Luna, the street outside our place sounded like rain learning to count. One car, then another, a misfiring scooter, the soft hush of tires like someone shushing a crying child. Garrett, my boyfriend, watched the kettle and didn't meet my eyes. He never did when the subject was his past, and Luna lived there like a tenant with no lease and too many plants. She called again, he said, as if the words might evaporate with the steam. Says the apartment rejected her. She needs a cosigner. Constructs, I said lightly. A lease is just a social construct, remember? He huffed a laugh, then winced like it hurt to find something funny. Before me, he'd paid for almost everything in a relationship that was supposedly post-everything. Post-jealousy, post-ownership, post-labels. Luna preached freedom while forwarding bills. When she announced she was polyamorous with Dimitri, workshop twin flame, last name unstated, Garrett said, "Then be free," and put her and her salt lamps on the curb. Now Freedom wanted a cosign. His phone lit up. We watched the preview bloom across the glass. "I need you to cosign. You know I can't qualify. My credit is still healing from my spiritual journey. Don't weaponize capitalism against me." Luna. "Answer?" he asked. "I'll draft," I said, and typed, "Dear Luna, co-signing is just a social construct. We're evolving beyond artificial financial boundaries." Garrett snorted, and for a second the room warmed. Then the next ping landed. "Fine. Insurance due tomorrow. You've always covered it. Why are you doing this?" I typed again. "Insurance is institutionalized fear, right? You taught us that. Be fearless." "You're brutal," he said, but there was relief in it, the kind you feel when a splinter finally gives up its stubborn little ghost. "Just accurate," I said. She built a theology. I'm citing scripture. I'd never met Luna in the flesh, only through artifacts. A gauzy scarf left in a drawer like a residually perfumed accusation. A screenshot of her TED Talk texts on decolonizing love. A yoga membership Garrett canceled the day he stopped hearing himself minimized. But I knew her cadence, the way an ask shapeshifted into a moral indictment if you hesitated. No was never allowed to mean boundary. It meant you had failed to evolve. The kettle clicked off. Garrett poured, hands steadying. "She'll show up. Then we'll use our words." 2 days later, she did. Not at our door, at his job, which felt worse, like a prank pulled on dignity. Garrett's supervisor, Tony, divorce eyes and a plain gold ring he didn't take off, leaned in the doorway as Luna's voice climbed the ladder of outrage. "You're being financially abusive," Luna said when I arrived, breathless and already tired. "We were together for 2 years, and now you abandon me mid-ascension." "Ascend somewhere that takes rent and vibes," Tony murmured to me, then straightened. "Ma'am, do you pay his bills?" Luna's mouth opened, then reset to righteous. "We don't reduce sacred exchange to ledger lines." I stepped forward. "We can, for a moment." Her eyes snapped to me, quick inventory from boots to cheekbones. "And you are?" "The current social construct," I said. "Hi." A few heads turned. Garrett's shoulders dropped a fraction. Permission to breathe. Luna recalibrated, voice softening into confessional silk. "Sister, I am not your enemy. Patriarchy taught men to hoard resources. You could help me deprogram him." There it was. The pivot from accusation to enlistment. The way she conscripted women into the story of her being wronged. I felt a small, traitorous ache for her. Somewhere under the performance was a scared girl with big words and no landlord. But compassion isn't subsidy. "Help me understand," I said. "You reject monogamy as ownership. You reject legal frameworks as hierarchical. You reject money as colonizer energy. Which of those frameworks do you accept when the bills arrive?" She blinked. "Some constructs are useful." "Name 2, I said, specifically. Silence, brief but honest. Then she rallied. "Community care." "Community without contribution is extraction," I said. "It's just theft with incense." Tony coughed, possibly to hide a laugh. Behind him, a coil of industrial hose gleamed like a domesticated snake. Luna's chin lifted. "You're threatened by my freedom." "No," I said. "I'm bored by your double standard." Her gaze flicked to Garrett. "I need my phone. My clients contact me. You cut it off." "I cut my plan off," he said, voice even. "You were using it." "I can't work." "Work?" I asked, before I could swallow the word. I thought jobs were, what did you call them? Colonizer concepts. The temperature shifted. You could feel the room choose reality over rhetoric line by line, the way a crowd at a street performance chooses the violinist who can actually play. For the first time, Luna looked small inside her certainty. She went for the nuclear option. If you love me at all, you wouldn't... Past tense, Garrett said, and the air moved like a quiet storm. Luna stared at him, then at me, eyes wetting with genuine panic. In that moment, I saw it. The thin, torn place where her doctrine ended and winter began. Part of me wanted to hand her a blanket and a bus ticket. The other part wanted the next sentence out of her mouth to be the truth. It wasn't. I'll find someone who understands, she said, and swept out, scarf trailing something like surrender. She didn't find someone. She found everyone. Instagram, a healing circle that was a GoFundMe with drums, a law student cease and desist on lavender paper, citing karmic precedent and Mercury retrograde. She tagged Garrett in an essay about financial violence. Her friends reposted. In our small kitchen, I watched the shares climb like a weather warning and felt the old feminine training flicker. Be nice, be quiet, be above it. Post once, I told Garrett. Facts only. Screenshot the text where she said monogamy is ownership. Caption. Funny how constructs get real when the rent's due, then log off. He did. Within an hour, her post vanished. I lay awake that night thinking about scaffolding, how some structures restrict you and others keep you from falling. Luna was a poet of falling until the ground found her. In the dark, Garrett's hand found mine, warm and not at all hypothetical. She'll escalate, I whispered. She'll date a guy who thinks steak is a love language, he said into my hair, and somehow we laughed. We were right. A week later, Luna posted a soft-focus selfie at a steakhouse. Carl in the comments, all confidence and plumbing money. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt the first real pang of what this was. Not a fight between women, but a referendum on reality. And reality was about to order dessert. The algorithm loved her at first. Luna's grid became a reliquary of wounds. Long captions in milky fonts over sunsets, an altar of words like sovereignty and trauma. She posted a selfie with damp lashes and wrote about financial abuse and controlling partners, tagging Garrett like a flare thrown into night. I watched the comments roll in, tiny heart armies marching behind whatever story looked prettiest. It amazed me how convincingly language could pretend to be shelter. Do we answer? Garrett asked, holding the phone like it might stain. Once, I said. Only once. Then starve the theater. We posted a screenshot of Luna's text, monogamy is ownership. Garrett's caption, short as a closing door, funny how constructs get real when the rent's due. Then we closed the app like a window on a storm. Within an hour, her accusation disappeared, archived under the rug with everything that didn't sing in the right key. It should have felt like victory. It felt like duct tape over a leak. So we did the unpretty work. Garrett called, clicked, canceled. One by one, the quiet pipes of subsidy went dry. Her line on his phone plan. The streaming services she needed for research into narrative archetypes. The $150 monthly yoga membership for therapeutic movement. The meal delivery box that arrived like clockwork so she could honor her time. It wasn't revenge. It was math with a backbone. The first night without Netflix, she borrowed a friend's phone to call. You canceled my phone? She demanded, making the words sound like oxygen. I canceled my plan, Garrett said. You were using it. How am I supposed to work? I had to bite my tongue. I thought your intuitive counseling transcended technology, he said gently. Didn't you say your clients find you soul to soul? A second of silence, brittle as sugar before it shatters. You're twisting my language, she said, weaponizing it. Language is a tool, I murmured after he hung up. It was already a weapon. Week 2 brought the community tour. Luna pinballed between friends with names like River and Sage and Nova, sleeping 2 nights here, 4 hours there, until couches began to evaporate. It turns out abundance rhetoric is a little camera shy when asked to materialize as rent or a spare blanket in November. She tried staying with Dimitri, twin flame, workshop prophet. Last name still a rumor, but that lasted 4 days. His mom didn't appreciate a house guest who couldn't contribute to utilities because money is energy and should flow freely, especially when the flow was always outbound. By week 3, the story got lavender. A courier slid an envelope under our door like a dare. Inside, a cease and desist that smelled faintly of an herb garden and cited karmic precedent. universal law, and Mercury retrograde as mitigating factors in financial harassment. The signature belonged to a law student named Phoenix, a fellow traveler from the Conscious Relationship Workshop. Garrett's cousin, who is an actual lawyer, called us laughing so hard she wheezed. "This isn't even formatted correctly," she said. "They essentially claim gravity is mean." I almost felt bad when she asked to frame it. Almost. Luna's next move was louder. She organized what she called a healing circle for financial trauma, which was a GoFundMe with drums. The video featured her on a braided rug, talking about sacred labor and energetic exchange, eyes big enough to canoe across. She raised $73. One donor commented, "Maybe get a job?" Luna replied with a 500-word essay on how job is a colonizer term, and she is a light worker who deserves communal support. The donor asked for their $5 back. It would have been funny if there weren't people under those words. Landlords expecting checks, a woman learning that the universe's timing doesn't cover late fees. I kept waiting for the slap of guilt, that old, obedient female reflex, but something inside me had shifted. Compassion stayed. Compliance left the building. A boundary is not a betrayal. It's a home. Still, humans hate empty plates. The algorithm grew bored of weeping. Luna pivoted to opulence. Enter Carl, 52, forearms like rolled blueprints, owner of a plumbing business. He appeared in the comments first, then at a table set with red meat and redder wine. Luna called him wise and stabilizing and captioned their photo, "When old souls recognize each other, age dissolves." In a story frame, she filmed the velvet banquette and a steak, bleeding like an easy metaphor. Someone commented, "Thought you were vegan." The story vanished. I didn't gloat. I observed. The doctrine was molting into a lifestyle that paid better. Freedom began to look like dining on someone else's dignity. You can call that abundance. Where I'm from, we call it a tab. "Do you think he knows?" Garrett asked, peering at his phone like it might hide a trapdoor into wisdom. "People hear what they're hungry to hear," I said. "He probably thinks he's rescuing a mermaid." "And she thinks she's being worshipped," he said. "And I think we should rotate the tires and clean the gutters," I said, "because sometimes love is boring on purpose." We did. The hose thumped like a polite dragon on the grass. Leaves ferried themselves down the gutter and into the bag. The quiet competence of it made me feel drunk. That night, Luna tried a different door. My work email pinged. Sister-to-sister sacred communication. She accused Garrett of spiritual bypassing, of weaponizing her evolved consciousness, of trapping women in third-dimensional thinking. She offered Zoom circles at $50 an hour to help me awaken to his manipulations. It was almost artful how she reached for women's solidarity like a grappling hook toward resources. I stared at the screen long enough to see my own reflection. Stern, not easily flattered, wearing the same inexpensive sweater I've had for years. The person looking back was not a mean girl. She was a woman who had paid her own rent since 22, who understood that abundance without reciprocity is a fairy tale told to sell crystals. I didn't answer. I forwarded it to Garrett and then went to bed, where the ceiling held the day gently above us, like a mother holds a fevered child. Sleep came slow. In it, I dreamed of scaffolding again. How it looks ugly when you want a finished house. How it's the only reason anyone gets to the roof alive. On a damp Saturday, the restaurant scene arrived, uninvited and precise as a clock striking. We were 2 bites into a shared dessert when Luna swept in on Carl's arm, perfume forward, certainty restored. She saw us before we could pretend not to see her. The room rearranged itself around the collision. "This is going to be bad," Garrett murmured. "Or clarifying," I said, and set down my spoon. "Foreshadowing tastes like sugar if you're not careful." We were about to find out which. The restaurant lighting was soft, the kind that flatters regret. Luna spotted us instantly. The recognition hit her face like wind on glass. Shock first, then composure, then a slow smile trained for an audience. "Arden," she sang, voice all honey and history. "Garrett, what a coincidence." Carl stood half a pace behind her, a man whose wallet had started to sense danger before his mind caught up. His linen shirt strained at the buttons. His watch gleamed like an apology he hadn't written yet. "Coincidence or consequence?" I said softly. Garrett's fork paused midair. "Evening, Luna." She ignored him, eyes sweeping over me. inventory again, then landing on the ringless hand resting on my napkin. You moved on fast. Replaced implies you held a position, I said. Positions imply structure. You don't believe in those, right? Her smile twitched. Cute. You've been studying my work. Field research, I said, primary source. Carl blinked between us. Wait, you two know each other? Luna inhaled, the kind of deep, performative breath yogis take before rewriting history. Garrett is my ex, the one who abandoned me in my time of growth. I turned to Carl. She means when she cheated on him and called it spiritual expansion. Carl's expression stiffened. You told me you'd been single for a year. Time is a construct, Luna said quickly. No, I said. It's really not. Rent's due the 1st of every month. Carl's silence felt heavy, like a man feeling the seams of a story start to split. Luna, he said quietly, were you living with him? She faltered. Temporarily. The universe placed me there. And did you pay rent? He pressed. Her nostrils flared. That's such a capitalist question. It's a yes or no, he said. When she didn't answer, he exhaled through his nose, then looked at Garrett. Did she ever ask you for money? Constantly, Garrett said, usually while explaining how money was an illusion. Carl's mouth tightened. That tracks. He set his napkin down, deliberate. I'll get the check at our table. Carl, Luna snapped, voice cracking. Don't let them poison you against me. I'm not poisoned, he said. I'm sober. Then he added, you'll need to find your own ride home. The words dropped like a gavel. Carl walked away without looking back. For a second, the restaurant was too quiet. Even the ice in glasses seemed to pause. Then Luna turned on me, trembling fury disguised as enlightenment. You enjoy this, don't you? She hissed. You think you've won. I think consequences finally RSVP'd, I said. She leaned in so close I could smell the vanilla and resentment. You built your entire identity around being the reasonable woman, but you're just jealous of my freedom, of my light. Freedom without accountability isn't light, I said. It's fire. And you're burning through everyone who gets close enough to warm you. Her eyes glistened, not with tears, but with recognition she didn't want to have. She opened her mouth, then closed it, shaking her head like someone shaking sand out of their ears. You'll see, she said, retreating toward the door. One day you'll wake up and realize your stability is just a cage. Garrett watched her leave, then looked at me. You okay? I nodded, though something heavy lingered. Not triumph, something sadder. The feeling you get watching a ship insist the shore is sinking. That night, back home, the air tasted like relief and fatigue. We didn't talk much. The hum of the refrigerator filled the space where argument could have lived. When Garrett finally spoke, his voice was quieter than usual. I almost miss her sometimes, he admitted. Not her, exactly. Just believing in what she said, that love could be that free. I set my glass down. Freedom isn't the absence of boundaries, Garrett. It's knowing which ones you can live inside without losing yourself. He nodded, eyes soft with something like understanding. We turned off the lights. For the first time in months, the dark felt clean. 3 days later, Luna found another platform. My inbox. Subject line, woman to woman, sacred communication. I opened it, already expecting the incantation tone. Sister, I'm reaching out in divine feminine solidarity to warn you. Garrett displays signs of spiritual bypassing and unresolved inner child wounds. He weaponized my growth against me, using my higher consciousness as a tool for financial manipulation. I'm not jealous. I've transcended such base emotions. But as women, we must protect each other. In Sisterhood and Light, Luna PS, I offer healing sessions via Zoom, $50 hour, energy exchange accepted. Garrett read it over my shoulder. His eyebrows climbed so high they could have joined a new religion. $50, he said. Guess she believes in money again. I laughed. It came out tired but honest. Maybe she's decolonized her hourly rate. I thought about replying, something sharp and funny. Instead, I forwarded the email to a folder named Evidence of Evolution and closed my laptop. That night, I dreamed of scaffolding again. Only this time, it was being dismantled, piece by piece, until all that was left was open sky and 2 people standing under it, steady on the ground. I woke up to an unexpected quiet. No notifications, no pings. The storm had moved on, maybe east, maybe inward. For the first time in months, I believed the silence would last. I was wrong. Week 10 arrived like a ghost with luggage. It was Sunday night when the knock came. Soft, insistent, like someone who still believed politeness could rewind history. Through the peephole, Luna. 2 suitcases, mascara melted to grief, the kind of coat that looked borrowed from better days. Garrett froze. I'll handle it, I said, already knowing there was no handling, only witnessing. When I opened the door, the cold followed her in like an accomplice. I have nowhere to go, she said. I didn't move. That sounds hard. She blinked. Garrett, please, she said past me, eyes wet. I was wrong about everything. He didn't answer. I did. Define everything. Her lip trembled. The polyamory, the conscious relationship stuff. Dimitri, I see now how foolish. So monogamy isn't a social construct? I asked. Silence. You could almost hear the philosophy gears grinding, trying to find a loophole. Maybe it is, she said finally, voice small. But some constructs are useful. Which ones? I pressed. Be specific. She glanced at the floor. The ones that keep people alive, like financial obligations and exclusive relationships. So you're saying society built those structures for a reason? Her jaw tightened. Yes, I nodded. Good. Now we're on the same page. She took a shaky step forward, hope flickering. Then you'll let me stay? Just for a few nights until I find something? I looked at Garrett. His face was calm, unreadable. We'd both done this dance before. The way Luna made pity sound like morality, guilt like enlightenment. Luna, I said, if you ever really loved him, you'll understand this next part. What part? That love without accountability isn't love, it's consumption. Her expression broke open. Panic, then fury, then that pleading sweetness that once got her anything she wanted. You can't just throw me away like this. I'm not throwing you away, I said. I'm handing you back to reality. It's overdue. She tried a new angle. If you don't help me, I'll call the cops and tell them you're keeping my stuff. What stuff? Garrett asked quietly. You took everything. I left things. Name one. She hesitated, lips parting, then closing. The silence was her answer. Finally, she muttered, my parents said I need to learn responsibility, but they're in Iowa and I don't have gas money. Garrett reached into his wallet, pulled out 2 20s and handed them over. Now you do. One time. Never contact us again. Luna stared at the bills like they were an insult carved in paper. $40? After 2 years? It's more than you ever contributed to gas, he said. Or groceries. Or rent. I gave you everything, she said, voice shaking. You gave me lectures about consciousness while I paid for everything, he replied. There's a difference. Something in her face snapped then. Not anger, not heartbreak, but realization. The story had finally stopped working. She grabbed the money, turned, and slammed the door hard enough to rattle the glass. The echo lingered. Then the house was still. Weeks passed. Winter did what it always does. Erased, quieted, replaced drama with weather. One afternoon, Garrett got a text from an unknown number. Hi, this is Luna's mom. She asked me to tell you she's sorry and hopes you can forgive her someday. Why didn't she text herself? She says direct communication would disturb your energy fields during Mercury retrograde. It's not in retrograde. I know, she also doesn't have a phone anymore. Garrett didn't reply. He just handed me the phone, then let out a breath that felt 10 years deep. Closure, he said. The kind that actually closes. I smiled faintly. Maybe she's finally met reality halfway. Reality, as it turned out, was Iowa, where she'd gone back to work at her father's hardware store. Her Facebook bio read, Strategic retreat to the maternal homeland for chakra realignment. Translation, broke, grounded, possibly healing. Dimitri moved on, of course. Another twin flame, another 4-day enlightenment. Carl sent Garrett a beer and a thank you. You saved me a lot of money and 2 years of my life. Even River and Sage, once her loyal chorus, quietly unfollowed. After Luna admitted online she'd lived rent-free for 18 months while experimenting with fluid connection. The final irony came months later. Luna launched a podcast called Conscious Consequences. Episode 1, Navigating Abundance Blocks After Toxic Relationships. Episode 2, Why Working Retail is Actually a Spiritual Practice. There was no episode 3. Garrett and I kept living, not transcending, just living. Work, bills, dinners, ordinary happiness. The kind of love that doesn't need a manifesto. One morning, while folding laundry, I realized something simple. Luna had wanted transcendence, but what she truly feared was gravity. The pull that makes you accountable, the weight that makes love real. And maybe that's why she kept floating from person to person, idea to idea, because gravity, for all its heaviness, means belonging somewhere. I looked at Garrett across the room, sleeves rolled up, fixing the leg of our old dining chair, and thought, this is what evolution actually looks like. Two people repairing the world they live in, not escaping it. I sent Luna a small wish into the air, just to be kind. May she someday find a life sturdy enough to hold her, and may we never confuse chaos for freedom again.